Neisseria meningitidis. Neisseria is a gram-negative diplococci. Most of the cocci are coming under gram-positive category, but Neisseria is an exception, which is a gram-negative diplococci. They are classified under kingdom Bacteria, phylum Proteobacteriaceae, class Beta Proteobacteria, order Neissereales, genus Neisseria. Two important pathogenic species of Neisseria genus is Neisseria gonorrhea and Neisseria meningitidis. For the first time, Albert Ludwig Sigismund Neisser discovered Neisseria gonorrhoeae. The first pathogenic species of Neisseria identified as Neisseria gonorrhoeae, that was in 1879. And the other important pathogen of Neisseria is Neisseria meningitidis, that was discovered by Anton Weisselbaum in 1887. And he named the bacteria as Diplococcus intracellularis meningitidis. And he isolated this bacteria from the spinal fluid of patients. They were suffering with cerebrospinal meningitis. And the Neisseria meningitidis bacteria is commonly known as meningococcus, and the disease caused by this bacteria is known as meningococcal meningitis, or commonly known as cerebrospinal fever. These are some general properties of Neisseria genus. This bacteria are mainly oxidase positive, gram-negative, strictly aerobic, non-sporulating, and non-motile in nature. First, about Neisseria meningitidis. It is a gram-negative diplococci. You can see here in this image, two cocci were joined together, and they have nearly oval or spherical shape. Average size of individual cocci is 0.6 to 0.8 micrometer, and this, if you're considering the individual cocci, their one side is flattened, and a cocci resembles a half sphere or hemisphere. And generally this bacteria, when you're observing in patient sample, they are intracellular in nature, non-motile. If you're observing fresh isolates of this bacteria, they are capsulated. Let us study the cultural characteristics of this bacteria. They are nutritionally fastidious group of organisms. That means they have complex or exact nutritional requirements. It is very difficult to cultivate the bacteria by using our simple media. Either media supplemented with blood, serum, or ascitic fluid favors the growth of bacteria. As I already mentioned, it is an obligate aerobe, only grow in the presence of oxygen. Optimum temperature range for their growth is 35 to 36 degrees Celsius. Optimum pH is 7.4 to 7.6. They usually grow well in the presence of 5 to 10% carbon dioxide and high humidity. Two different groups of media were used for the cultivation of bacteria, either non-selective media or selective media. The common non-selective media used for their cultivation include blood agar, chocolate agar, Mullen, Hindon, starch, casein, hydrolysate agar. The selective media, which specifically allow the growth of Neisseria meningitidis bacteria, used as modified Thayer-Martin medium. On solid media, the colony characteristics are the given details. These colonies were bluish gray in color. They are round shaped. Average size is 1 mm. The surface of the colony is smooth and convex. The colonies were translucent. Translucent means the colony allow partially light to pass through it, not opaque and not transparent, in between, translucent. And the consistency of the colony is butyrous in nature. General biochemical characteristics of this bacteria: they ferment glucose, maltose with acid production, no gas is produced. and they doesn't ferment sugar like lactose, sucrose, and fructose. Nitrate reduction test is negative. They are colistin resistant. They produces gamma glutamyl aminopeptidase enzyme, and they also produces DNase enzyme. So this is the cell wall structure of Neisseria meningitidis bacteria. This is the cell wall portion and this is the outer membrane portion. Mainly the pilus, which helps the bacteria to attach to the epithelial surfaces, and they also contain a capsule. Capsule is mainly polysaccharide in nature. Capsule helps the bacteria to escape from phagocytosis, so it is also act like a virulent factor. And several other lipid and protein components in the sugar components in their outer membrane that also facilitate the bacteria to produce the meningitis disease. Next is resistance. It's a very delicate bacteria and are highly susceptible to heat, desiccation, pH changes, and they are they are susceptible to even disinfectant. They are sensitive to antibiotic like penicillin and several other antibiotics, so that antibiotic can be effectively used for the cultivation of this bacteria. Nowadays, resistant strains of Neisseria meningitidis bacteria were common. This is the general pathological mechanism, how the bacteria, molecular mechanism of pathogenesis, how the bacteria causes the disease. Here you can see a patient or a person get the disease mainly through the oronasal route, and whenever this bacteria enter through oronasal route, they preferably colonizes the nasopharyngeal region, and that portion is enlarged here, and this is the nasopharyngeal epithelium portion. So these are the epithelial cells you can see here, and this is the tissue macrophage or phagocyte present in the nasopharyngeal region. You can see here this phagocytes in this region, they specifically engulf the bacteria, and they cannot degrade this bacteria. Instead, they releases the bacteria into the underlying extracellular matrix. Similarly, through endocytosis, the bacteria can cross the nasopharyngeal epithelial region. You can see here vesicle is formed and vesicle fuses with the membrane. By the time bacteria multiplies and they releases into the underlying extracellular matrix. So in that extracellular matrix, you can see several blood vessels will be present. So the bacteria easily enter into the blood vessels by crossing the endothelial cells, and within the blood vessels, once they reach, they circulate all over the body. But their site of action is mainly a brain layer called meninges. So in the blood vessels, the bacteria which multiplies and they releases their lipopolysaccharide content and tumor necrosis factor, and it results in septicemia condition, and it will damage the vascular tissues. And in that sites, wherever the blood vessels were damaged, you can see red colored skin rashes. And whenever the bacteria circulate through this blood vessels and reaches the brain region, and this bacteria mainly infiltrate or escape from the blood vessels into the meninges region, and they start preferably infecting the meninges layer and causes the meningitis infection. So this is the overall pathway. I'm going to discuss how the disease is caused, what are the main symptoms and all. Actually, Neisseria meningitidis is a strict human parasite, and some of this bacteria, they were colonizing our nasopharynx region, or we may acquire this bacteria from another patient while he is coughing, sneezing, talking, and all releases aerosol that enter into our nasopharynx region through oronasal route. And generally the infection, most of the cases asymptomatic. It will not produce characteristic symptom and diagnosis is difficult. And whenever the bacteria which reaches the nasopharyngeal region and they spread and they causes minor infections like rhinitis and pharyngitis. And from the nasopharynx, the bacteria can directly spread into the brain, not only through the bloodstream. Several other ways are there for the bacteria to directly cross the nasopharynx region to the brain, which include perineural sheath of olfactory nerve, cribriform plate to subarachnoid space of brain. Here you can see the subarachnoid space. It's a region or space which is present in the brain region. Next, it commonly spread through bloodstream, and even the bacteria can enter our body or especially into the brain region through the conjunctiva. And whenever the conjunctiva is the entry site to the conjunctiva, it causes a disease or condition called meningococcus purulent conjunctivitis. And whenever the bacteria successfully reaches the meninges layer, where it causes suppurative pus-containing lesions and leads to infection of meninges layer, it is known as meningitis. Okay, and whenever the meningitis condition develops, you can see the cocci presence in spinal fluid, both in free form, and they are also present within the leukocytes. The survivors of this meningitis disease also develops complications like blindness, deafness, chronic or recurrent meningitis. The common symptoms of the disease include fever with chills, malaise, prostration, and petechial rash. Here you can see what is petechial rash. It is due to the leakage of blood vessels into the skin, and the blood when it is leaked into the skin tissues directly, it will produce symptom reddish colored spots here and there. And the bacteria can metastasis or spreads to organs like joints, ears, eyes, lungs, and adrenal glands. In 10% of cases, it causes a pneumonia condition. And a fulminant meningococcemia or meninges infection, which is also known as Waterhouse Federation syndrome, which is characterized by shock disseminated intravascular within the blood vessels. The bacteria coagulate and multi-system failure. Different organs get damaged. Epidemiology, how the bacteria spread. We know that natural reservoir of this bacteria is human beings. In their nasopharynx region, urogenital tract, anal canal, this bacteria is commonly present. So we human beings act like a carriers of this bacteria, especially in their nasopharyngeal region. So nearly 5 to 10% of adults, they act like asymptomatic carriers of this bacteria. Modes of infection is always direct contact with the patient or carrier, or through the respiratory droplets released from the nose or throat of infected patients or carriers. The prevalence of meningitis disease is highest in Africa, okay, where a frequent epidemics of this bacteria is reported. Especially in 1996, a largest outbreak occurred with nearly 15,000 deaths reported. Transmission I already mentioned, through direct contact or through airborne droplets. Always the chances of getting infection is very high when you have a direct contact with the infected person, who can be either your family member, a daycare person, or in military camps and all. Getting the disease is very high because there is a close contact of living, and in prisons and other institutional settings, always there is a chances of crowding, and direct contact is very high, and the transmission rate of disease is also very high. Laboratory diagnosis. The major specimen used for the diagnosis of this bacteria include CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, and blood, since the infected layer is meninges. So the two crucial sample is always CSF and blood. How we can examine the CSF? Okay, in the CSF, there will be a increased pressure due to the rapid growth of this bacteria, and always the CSF is it's a pure fluid without any contamination, and it is a clear fluid. But whenever this bacteria grows, the CSF will be turbid in nature, And the collected CSF usually divided into three portions. One is for microscopy, one is for biochemical test, and one is for culture. Microscopy. Always gram staining of the CSF sample is preferred, especially deposit from the CSF is used. You can centrifuge the CSF sample, collect the deposit, and then you can, by using the deposit, perform the gram staining. You can observe gram-negative diplococci either intracellular or free. And in the infected patient blood or CSF, you can see white cell count increases to several thousands per cubic mm. Then biochemical test, glucose is markedly diminished and CSF protein is markedly raised in the CSF sample. So whenever you are examining the CSF fluid from the patient, when you are estimating glucose level, it will be markedly diminished compared to the normal patient, but the CSF proteins content will be raised. Then culture, we can inoculate this bacteria preferably into chocolate agar medium, incubate at 37 degrees Celsius in 5 to 10% carbon dioxide and high humidity. After 24 hours, bacterial colonies will be appear, and the organism further you can test it for biochemical and agglutination reaction to confirm their presence. Otherwise, you can analyze the colony morphology and you can identify the bacteria. Again, by using the colony, you can perform the gram staining also. You can also use the selective media for the cultivation of bacteria, which is our modified Thayer-Martin media. In addition to CSF and blood, some other sample can also be used for the diagnosis of the disease, like nasopharyngeal swab. This nasopharyngeal swab is useful for the detection of carriers. That means they were asymptomatic, and sampling should be done without any contamination with the saliva of the patient, and the swab should be transported in a suitable medium, for example, Stewart's medium, till it is plated in the laboratory. The second one is petechial lesion. I already told you what is this petechial lesion, red colored blood leakage lesion on the skin. So meningococci may sometimes present on this petechial lesion. We can demonstrate it by microscopy or by culture. Next is autopsy. Autopsy, in which specimens may be collected from the meninges or from the lateral ventricles, or from the surface of the brain, or even from the spinal cord. And you can smear the specimen. We can prepare smear out of the specimen, and we can do the microscopy. And by using the specimen, you can do the culture techniques also. And meningococci may die if the specimens are not collected within 12 hours of the death of the patient. So that should be taken care of. Next is retrospective evidences. That means obtaining the antibodies against this meningococci is also a diagnostic method. Next is the most significant molecular diagnosis. Here we are diagnosing or determining the group specific detection of meningococcal DNA sequences in the patient's CSF or blood by PCR method. Next is prophylaxis and treatment, how we can prevent the disease and how we can treat the disease. Prophylaxis is of two types: chemoprophylaxis and immunoprophylaxis. Immunoprophylaxis, vaccine we are using, and chemoprophylaxis, antibiotics are preferred, like rifampicin, minocycline, and ciprofloxacin are most commonly used. For vaccination, different types of vaccines are available. A vaccine containing capsular polysaccharide of bacterial serotype A and C, which is usually preferred for infants below 2 years age. And a quadrivalent vaccine, which is constituted by polysaccharide of serotypes of bacteria like A, C, Y, and W135. And it is also recommended for children and adults. And then there is a conjugate vaccine where the polysaccharide antigen of Neisseria meningitidis is conjugated with another bacterial toxin, that is diphtheria toxoid. And it is work against both the diphtheria as well as meningitis disease. This is the conjugate vaccine. Treatment. As I told you, the bacteria is sensitive to a list of antibiotics. Antibiotics coming under the group of sulfonamides, penicillin G, chloramphenicol, cephalosporin, they can be effectively used to treat the disease.